In December of 2019, Caitlyn Flanagan published a piece in The Atlantic entitled "The Dishonesty of the Abortion Debate." And we're going to read a lot from it right here. It's incredibly compelling. She writes, quote, "In 1956, two American physicians, J.A. Presley and W.E. Brown, colleagues at the University of Arkansas School of Medicine, decided that 4 recent admissions to their hospital were significant enough to warrant a published report. Lysol-induced criminal abortion appeared in the journal Obstetrics and Gynecology. It describes 4 women who were admitted to the hospital in extreme distress, all of them having had criminal abortions, with what the doctors believed to be an unusual agent, Lysol. The powerful cleaner had been pumped into their wombs. 3 of them survived, and 1 of them died. I've read many accounts of complications and deaths from the years when abortion was illegal in this country. The subject has always compelled me because my mother told me that many times that when she was a young nurse at Bellevue Hospital in New York City, she had twice sat beside girls as they died from botched abortions. Both girls were interviewed by detectives who demanded to know the abortionists' names, but both refused to reveal them. They were too terrified, my mother always said. Abortionists, to use the term of that era, typically extracted 3 promises from women who sought them out. They must keep the procedure a secret. They must never reveal the abortionist's name. And no matter what happened to them afterward, they must never contact him or her again. Flanagan also writes, "The first time I saw one of the new 3D ultrasounds of a fetus in utero, I wasn't entirely sure what I was looking at. It wasn't anything like the black and white images I was used to seeing. It looked otherworldly, like we'd finally made contact with the planet we've always wanted to reach. For a long time, these images made me anxious. They are proof that what grows within a pregnant woman's body is a human being, living and unfolding according to a timetable that has existed as long as we have. Obviously, it would take a profound act of violence to remove him or her from his quiet world and destroy him." The argument for abortion, if made honestly, requires many words. It must evoke the recent past, the dire consequences to a woman of making a very simple medical procedure illegal. The argument against it doesn't take even a single word. The argument against it is a picture. This is not an argument anyone is going to win. The loudest advocates on both sides are terrible representatives for their cause. And here is one truth. No matter what the law says, women will continue to get abortions. How do I know? Because in the relatively recent past, women would allow strangers to brutalize them, to poke knitting needles and wire hangers into their wombs, to thread catheters through their cervixes and fill them with Lysol or scalding hot water or lie. Women have been willing to risk death to get an abortion. When we made abortion legal, we decided we weren't going to let that happen anymore. We were not going to let one more woman arrive at a hospital with her organs rotting inside of her. We accepted that we might lose that growing baby, but we were also not going to lose that woman. Mara, Caitlyn's piece is so searing and so strong, but it brings to light a reality in America. This is not just something that happens once in a while. This is a reality across the board that's come back to us now.
I mean, this is the reality that the Supreme Court doesn't even bother to acknowledge, which is the human reality of the amount of suffering that is going to take place in this country unnecessarily because of their actions. We like to pretend that our actions don't have consequences on others, but they do. And women in this country are not going to simply sit back and accept this. They will do whatever they have to do to exercise control over their own bodies and their own lives. And the consequences of that for too many Americans, I fear, are going to be death. and other women, you know, who may want to have pregnancies later on and be unable to. It's just absolutely chilling. And I also just want to say, you know, there is an element here of this is really not just about abortion. This is about just an attack on modern America as we have come to know it. The ability to, and the freedom and the knowledge that we have the freedom as Americans, as citizens, to exercise control over our own bodies, to decide what we do, to Joe's point, in our own bedrooms with another consenting adult. And of course, to take birth control as well, which I think we should absolutely take those threats seriously.
Michael
I think that's
Beschloss.
what's happening next.
I'm sorry, Marty. Michael Beschloss, just reading Caitlyn Flanagan's piece, you really do. You get the imagery of what her mother saw at Bellevue. And it really is. It is just like we are going back 50, 60 years as a country. And the takeaway line from there, the takeaway from Caitlyn's piece is women are going to continue to have abortions. The question is whether those abortions are going to be safe or whether young women, perhaps the victims of incest or rape, are going to end up dying after they're rushed to a hospital.
Totally right. What we're seeing is a tyranny by a minority that is now being expressed by a majority on the Supreme Court because of our political system. And they're basically saying, you know, in that opinion, was there any comfort for someone who disagrees? The majority of Americans who are going to disagree with this ruling. What the message was, it wasn't like George Washington saying power in a democracy has to be exercised with restraint. Instead, what that ruling on Friday says is we've got the power, deal with it. You're going to have to deal with us even more.
You know, Michael, I just want to underline that really quickly, that point you made, because I will say that is one thing that friends of mine, pro-life friends of mine, conservative lawyers of mine, and others underlined. It wasn't just the holding, taking away a fundamental right over the past 50 years. They found the tone to be confrontational, and anyone who has followed the Supreme Court, anyone who has read constitutional law, knows that most justices, especially in landmark decisions, bend over backwards to explain how this is not a radical move. This is we are moving forward, and we're moving in the direction that this country's been moving in, and we understand their problems, but this is what, and they'll round off some of the harsher edges. They will give something to their opponents, their legal or ideological opponents. There was none of that there. I've got to say, more than any Supreme Court decision I've ever read, it was even the language. There was a violence to the reasoning. We win, you lose. Yeah. We're taking away these rights, and there's nothing you can do about it. Please, if somebody disagrees with me, please let me know where a court has overruled a right that's been in place for 50 years and done so in such an aggressive manner with absolutely no grace and absolutely no outreach to their legal or ideological opponents.